Okay, now we're going to look at another tab on Lineuphq. We're going to look at the build rules page and show a couple ways that I use that to also get some differentiation in my lineups. Differentiation is an interesting word to say. I think I said that even correctly, but make my lineups different from each other. So let's click over to the build rules page. You'll see up here near the top, you start on player pool. There's all these different links, but build rules is what we're looking at. This is another place where what we talked about in the first little video where you can use minimum maximum percentage. You can also use this page to accomplish a lot of that if you want to do kind of all the players in the same way. A couple of different ways you'll see that here. One is we do have hitter max exposure and pitcher max exposure for the entire player pool. So if you don't want to go through and check a number for every single player on a full slate, you can just use this slider, move it down to 50%. Now, no hitter will end up in more than 50% of your lineups. While noting, back on the player pool page, these will override that. So you could, let's just say Ronald Acuna, you're fine to have an 80%. He will now be up at 80%, but no one else will go over this 50% mark. Same with pitchers. Slide that down as much as you want. What I'll tell you, one of the ways I use this is I will set hitter max exposure on everyone that I like, everyone that I want, up to, I don't know, maybe some 50s and 40s and 30s. So I've put a number on everyone that I definitely want to make sure to get. So then I may keep this really low, like 5-10%, because everyone that I like is already checked at a number higher than that. But if you're not using those boxes on the main page, you might want to leave this higher. And if you're just making one lineup, or you just want to see an optimal lineup, then you want to leave it at 100. To just get the optimal lineup. Up at the top of this page, for baseball in particular, because the range of outcomes is bigger, I like to use this randomizer. Basically, it just, if player's projected at 10 and you move the range of outcomes up to 10%, it's really going to put him anywhere between 9 and 11 rather than saying he's just going to land on 10. Again, if you're trying to just see the optimal lineup, or if you're making one lineup for like a cash game or something based on the projections, then you don't want to change this. You just want to leave that at 0, leave the max exposure at 100 just to see the optimal lineup. So if you just, build a lineup with nothing changed, you get this, your number one lineup will be an optimal lineup. But on the build rules page, if you can slide this up as high as you want. And, if you go up to 70%, you're essentially not using the projections hardly at all. You're just getting a completely random sample of players. So usually, I'm looking down in the 10 to 20% range, but there's no correct answer to that. It just depends on what you're doing and how many lineups you're building. You can also do a team level randomness. And anytime you forget any of these, if you hover over the little I next to any of these categories, it will tell you what it is. If you're using a lot of stacks, you might want to use team level rather than individual players. Just saying, what if this team goes way over or way under their projection? But the other button that I don't know how many people use it that I think is very important for baseball, if you're doing a bunch of lineups and you want to make sure you don't get a lot of clumping, meaning the same 7 players in every lineup and then just the other 2 spots are changed, this number of unique players, you slide it up as high as 5. So that's going to mean you're just not going to get, the most you'll get is 4 of the same players on a lineup. So it removes a lot of that clumping where you have the same group of players on a lineup. So usually I have this set 3, 4, or even 5, just to make sure I'm getting everything spread out. And all these things kind of work interchangeably. Like you can use any one of these tools or any one of these sliders or the things on the main page, and your lineups will start to get unique. But when you use them all together, you can really set it the way you want it. So I think the main takeaway from this is what you do with the max exposures is going to depend on if you've done anything with them on the player pool page yourself. So if you want a few players at 80%, you find out how much of those 4 guys as you want, then you can go a little lower on this. Say I don't want anyone else at over 30% or 29%. The other thing you can do, which personally I don't use very much because I'm customizing all these other ones, but you can choose what position you want in your utility spot. It's not something I tend to do because I've already set it all up over here. All these buttons on the other side, again, just more ways to make yourself different. You can set a ownership percentage for your entire lineup rather than per player. You say 100% or 150%. You'll add up every player in your linup's ownership and not let it go over that amount. So there's lots of things you can play around with on this page. But the ones I'm most focused on: range of outcomes, unique players, and exposure percentage.